Hey, welcome back to Anti-King. Today we are doing yet another horror you probably slept on. Today we are covering Terrifier. And let me tell you, that's not as easy as I hoped. A lot like the problems I ran into with Feast 3, I was legitimately questioning how much of this movie I could even show you, and if the cut-up version would be worth making. Luckily, or unfortunately, depending on who you are, this movie doesn't have Chelsea Richards running around naked through 3/4 of it, so unlike Feast 3, I think I can swing it. Terrifier was released in a limited capacity in 2016 before being picked up by Dread Central for a wider release in 2018. It's directed, written, produced, and even edited by the same guy, Damien Leone, and features main protagonist Art the Clown, who was also featured in Leone's short film Ninth Circle, as well as his anthology film All Hallows Eve, which is another movie you should probably expect to see on this series someday. Art is one of the more memorable horror villains to emerge in quite a while, who loads the character with creepy and off-putting affectations that really help sell how deranged this guy is. Couple that with Leone's background and makeup effects, and this is bound to be a fun one. But again, I can't stress this enough, this one is a gore fest. If you can't stomach that kind of thing, maybe just sit this one out. With that being said, let's get right to it. The movie starts with an awesome sequence of Art putting together his whole clown regalia to some tense music, as he decides to take a little break from screen time. The music for this movie was done by Paul Wiley, who's worked on a few other short films and was recently in Marilyn Manson's band. Fuck Marilyn Manson and all, but that does explain the industrial tinges we hear throughout. Art loads up a cache of weapons, and we're on our way. We cut to the pretty redhead television personality we saw on Art's TV earlier, discussing her disfigured guest over the phone with a friend. She says some really terrible things about the poor girl's face, and as any horror fan will tell you, that's a fast track to an eye gouging. Oh hey, see, I told you? We're then introduced to our two main protagonists, Tara and Dawn. Great horror-themed names there, Damien. Oh shit, that's a horror name too. Tara and Dawn are on their way out of a Halloween rager before stopping in at a little pizza place in a strip mall. Art walks in with a big old bag of weapons and we get our meet cute.
So you see, that's where the trouble began. That smile. That damn smile.
I'm not sure what's happening here, honestly, as Tara's the only one who seems to notice the menacing, blood-soaked clown sitting next to them. I mean, Dawn even tries to get an unwelcome selfie with the guy. I know it's Halloween, but come on. The sequence drags on for far too long before eventually, Art's getting kicked out of the store for shitting all over the walls.
And I'ma shit on these walls, Ray!
Art feels bad leaving that poor employee with such a mess to clean, so he offers him a head lantern as an apology. Aww. Wow, pretty unappreciative, dude. Art chases him to the back and cleavers his hand right the fuck off as he grabs for the phone. Art then stabs him in the face and leaves him to bleed out. Oh, nope, never mind. Meanwhile, Tara gets a call from her sister, and Tara assures her that she is safe and that her phone just died at the party. But first, she needs to pee. That's right, Tara's bladder is gonna get everyone murdered. Thanks a lot, Tara. She spots a man on a smoke break outside and asks if she can come in to use the bathroom. The man says he's just fumigating, so sure, why not? He leads her to some real luxury facilities, and you gotta wonder, what is this place? It seems like an abandoned warehouse, but apparently someone cares about it enough to fumigate it. So now you gotta think that it's some kind of commercial space, but at the same time, later we're introduced to a crazy lady who presumably lives there, so I don't know. It's a murder warehouse for clowns, and this movie's got one. Dawn can attest to that, as Art suddenly appears in her front seat to scare and kidnap her. The fumigator lights a smoke as Tara exits the bathroom. She seems to get lost before running into the aforementioned crazy lady, complete with a doll she thinks is a baby. Also, she kinda looks like that YouTuber Varley, and you can't get around it once you see it.
If you call me a bitch, I'ma be a bitch. Yeah.
Tara's had enough chit-chat with the crazy lady and runs into Art. But no worries, he appears to be frozen in time. Oh shit! Tara takes off with Art in pursuit, and we get a brilliantly suspenseful chase sequence in a garage full of cars. Eventually though, Art gets a hold of her and attempts to gouge her eyes out, but not before Tara can jam a scalpel into his ribs and take off. She doesn't get very far, however, as the fumigation has the whole place locked down. Soon, Art gets up and we're treated to another tense sequence as she hides and eventually escapes with a game of fetch. Go get it, boy! We cut to Tara's sister, whose name is Victoria, as she learns about the pizza place massacre over her car's radio on a drive. She gives an unenthusiastic "really?" which I think is meant to imply she now has to go check on her sister. We cut back to Tara, who has now escaped the garage area, only to realize how dire her situation is, as she finds nothing but locked doors. The fumigation idea was a great plot device by Leone. She then sees the guy from earlier and tries to get his attention, but he's too busy jamming. Art grabs her and injects her with some sleepy time serum, and she wakes up strapped to a chair. And if you're not into intense, over-the-top gore, now is your very last chance to get out. I'll wait. Alright, here we go. Tara soon realizes that Art is in the room with her, sorting through his bag of weapons. He grabs a tomahawk and does some playful fake murders, before taking out a saw and taunting her with that. He then unveils what's been under the curtain in front of her. It's none other than Dawn, suspended nude, upside down, by her ankles. This kill is probably what this movie is most known for, and man is it a spectacular practical effect, but it's so visceral it's hard to watch. Art takes the saw and starting from the crotch begins to saw Dawn in half vertically, all while Tara is forced to watch helplessly. Its brutality is just really unmatched in anything I've seen recently, and but I mean, look how much fun he's having, aw. Anyways, obviously scared to death, Tara breaks right the fuck out of the decrepit little chair she was strapped to, smacks Art one good time, and stabs him in the back before running away. Art eventually catches up to her in a different garage, and it looks like our final girl has finally gotten the upper hand as she beats the shit out of him with a 2x4. Then out of nowhere, Art busts out the blick and sits Tara down, before emptying the clip in her head in a twist that sees our presumed final girl very, very dead. We see scenes cut into this sequence showing Art inviting Victoria in for some clown fun. Meanwhile, Crazy Lady, sees the whole thing, and Art needs to discuss it with her. Really help her put it into context, you know? Just kidding. He scalps and debreasts her and uses them as a costume to fool unsuspecting Victoria into thinking it was Tara. A chase sequence ensues as Art does his best Buffalo Bill impression. While hiding, a barely mentioned B-story brings another fumigator to the property looking for his co-worker. Art makes short work of him, stabbing him in the top of the head and cutting his head clean off. He then exits to do a Billy the Puppet impression as Victoria attempts to escape. She's caught from behind by Art as he tries to suffocate her with a bag, but she manages to rip free and stab him in the foot with a railroad spike, resulting in him flipping some major birdage.
I hope you can see this because I'm doing it as hard as I can.
Victoria escapes into a tunnel where she finds her sister's severely disfigured corpse. She stops and breaks down into tears for a moment before Art shows up with a cat of nine tails, except with scalpels, and just starts brutally slashing at her before Mr. Fumigator shows up with his gas canister and knocks Art the fuck out. They escape long enough for him to find a phone and call 911, but are confronted with Art once again. This time, Art stomps the fumigator's head into a gooey, pulpy mess. Ugh. She can finally see outside as sirens wail in the background, and just as she thinks she's made it, Art hits her with an entire truck. The police pull up, guns drawn, while Art is eating Victoria's face. Art then sticks the gun in his mouth and pulls the trigger, ending his mayhem once and for all. It's revealed that Victoria isn't dead, and in a twist they pretty much telegraphed the second Tara died. It's also revealed that she was the disfigured girl from the interview at the beginning of the movie. Meanwhile, Art is wheeled into the coroner's office, where he resurrects himself with some flickering lights that allude to his likely supernatural abilities that will come about in the sequel due next year. He then kills the coroner with an off-screen neck snap. So if you're new to the series, I rate these based on tension, kills, acting, plot, score, and direction. Not in that order. If you're not new here, what are you doing? You already know how this works. The brutality that Art displays throughout makes him feel a special kind of dangerous. Like the difference between a venomous snake and a bear. They'll both kill you, but that bear is gonna tear you the fuck apart. That makes the chase sequences that much more tense. It really becomes a highlight of this movie. Director, writer, editor, and producer Damien Leone said in a behind-the-scenes interview that Tom Savini's makeup work was the main reason he got into movies to begin with. And man does it show here. The movie is really just a vehicle for these practical effects, and they are executed outstandingly well. So much fun. Honestly, this is only as high as it is because of David Howard Thornton, whose take on Art is so creepy and particular that it almost immediately vaults itself into all-time horror status. That being said though, literally every other actor in this movie is almost hard to watch. Some of the line deliveries are downright awkward, and some of that has to do with Leone writing dialogue for the first time as well. Again, there's no real plot here. This movie is really just a showcase for these practical effects. That being said, there are some clever plot devices, like the fumigation thing, that make this bare-bones script a little something more. A fantastic score that is legitimately jarring and subtle simultaneously. I'll mark it down a few points for kind of being derivative of what everyone's doing right now, but I mean, honestly, I like that shit, so I can't dock it too much. While certainly not lacking, the direction in this movie does leave something to be desired, and I think really probably just suffered from Leone wearing too many hats on set. When it comes down to it though, the direction here was, again, just meant to frame these practical effects. Alright, so 43 out of a potential 60, good enough for a 72%, which is dragged down significantly by some bad acting performances that honestly don't really matter. If you're into over-the-top ultraviolence portrayed by Savini-style effects and perpetrated by the most memorable horror villain in a decade, then this movie is worth a watch for you. Thanks for watching, guys. I've got my Melancholia video essay coming in the next couple of days, and next week I'm doing another Forgotten 80s gem with House on Sorority Row, before returning to this series the following week for Lords of Salem and the first of 3 Hatchet films that I will be covering. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, leave a comment, follow me on all the socials, and yeah, until next time, stay safe.